sleep struggles, digestive issues, weight gain, then this is the episode for you, sister. Tune in to hear from one of my private clients and learn what specific steps helped her start to see and feel changes, the surprising results that keep on coming, and what she thinks all women in perimenopause should know. Let's dive in. What's up, sister? Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast, the show helping perimenopause and menopause women de-stress your body and decode what it's saying to you so you can own your own health, energy, and weight loss again. If you're new, I'm so happy you're here. I'm Bria. I'm your host, a recovering people pleaser and hustle addict turned functional and holistic hormone specialist. Let's lean in and learn what your body is saying to you. Hey there, sisters. Before we dive into this episode, I always like to kind of introduce it, especially when I'm interviewing someone. And I wanted to start bringing more of my clients, my private clients, my Midlife Mojo clients onto the podcast to, I think, help share their journey, help share inspiration so you can feel motivated and realize it's possible for you at any age to feel amazing, no matter how yucky you feel right now, but also to share some of the key pieces that really helped move the needle for them so that you can hone in on those for yourself. Today, you get to hear from my amazing client and now friend, Anoushka, who has such a powerful story. But when she came to me, and you're going to hear all about it, she was really struggling with digestive issues, with sleep issues, with gaining unexplained or undeserved weight, as we say. And she really opens up and shares some of the most valuable things that worked for her, and just how it shifted her mindset and how amazing she feels now. So I'm not gonna, no more spoiler alerts. I'm excited for you to meet Anoushka. Let's dive right into this episode and take in all that she has to offer. Hey there, sisters. Welcome back to the Period Whisperer podcast. If you can't see me, I have like the biggest smile on my face. I'm so excited. I always love when I get to sit with someone and talk, but today I get to talk with one of my own one-on-one clients, Anoushka, who's here to share a little bit about her story, about how she's feeling, about how she was feeling with you all. And I just feel like I'm so lucky because working one-on-one with people is one of my most favorite things that I do. And sometimes those things get to turn into friendships. And this is one of those for me. So I am really excited to welcome Anoushka to the podcast today and have this conversation. So welcome.
I'm happy to be here, Bria. Very happy to be here.
I'm so happy you're here too. So I always like to kind of start, as you know, if you, because I know you listen to the podcast, with a little.
Yeah, I do.
So you, like, who you are, what you do, what your life is like a little bit. So, because I mean, we're talking to women in perimenopause. You're here with us. So yeah, what's the things?
Yeah, so I'm 47 years old, about to turn 48 next month. And I live in Sydney, Australia, originally from the UK, as you can hear. And but I've been here for 20 years now, so I am officially an Australian citizen. I run my own interior design business. I work from home. I'm very lucky, very blessed to be able to work from home and run a business now for about 13 years. I really enjoy what I do, so I feel quite lucky about that as well. I enjoy my work and I have wonderful clients that I work with. It's just myself, my husband, and our dog and our cat at home. We live in a lovely suburb of Sydney, and actually we both work from home. So we have a pretty nice lifestyle from that perspective. We can manage our own time, and to a degree our stresses in life. So no kids, which I know can lighten the load a little bit when you're going through perimenopause. Yeah, that's me.
I love that. I mean, it is a funny thing, we know it's kind of comes down to like energy supply and demand. I mean, none of us get to live on a deserted island here, or rush off to like Costa Rica for a 6-month retreat. We're all trying to feel better amidst all the things we have in our life.
That's right. That's right. And I do think running your own business, as you would know, comes with its own stresses and strains, and everything's on you. You're every part of that business. So that's probably my main pressure point in life.
Yeah. Plus the mindset is like you get that flexibility, but when you wake
Yeah.
up, you're grinding about that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Those things. Okay, I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you for sharing that about you. And if for anyone listening, if you haven't gone to, and I'm going to put Anoushka's Instagram handling because her
Oh,
interior design is so beautiful. So especially for
thank
the
you.
audience listening, make sure you check that out. But we started working together early last year, and
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about how you were feeling at that time, like why you were looking for help?
Yeah, definitely. I've been on a bit of a journey with my health from a more natural and holistic perspective, probably since about 34, 35, when I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is an underactive thyroid. And I was feeling pretty crappy in my mid 30s, but I found an amazing functional doctor who is both a GP. So in Australia, we're lucky we have, I don't know what it's like in the US, I think you have integrative functional doctors there as well. The guy that I've been working with here to get the thyroid back on track very much takes a holistic approach. So whilst he is a trained GP, he is also knowledgeable in many other more natural therapies and studies, and really wants to tackle your symptoms from a lifestyle perspective. So I'd worked with him for a number of years in my mid 30s up to now, really, but on and off, to get the thyroid under control. And I managed to do that without having to take any hormone. And to do that naturally was it felt like a real win to me. And I was like, yeah, I've got this all nailed now. I was feeling so much better. And, I had 10 years of feeling really good. And just getting into some of those really good routines and understanding how eating well can support you, and how the right supplements can support you. And functional doctors are really great at testing too, right? So I wasn't just taking random supplements. I was doing this based on advice and tests. But then I got into like that 45, 46 age bracket, and the things that I was doing before just weren't working anymore. And I thought I was pretty healthy, right? I had a healthy weight, healthy exercise, I thought, for what I needed, and probably was for that time of my life. But it just started to get harder and harder and harder and harder. And from about 45 to, when I contacted you, I just turned 47. So it was 2 years. It had felt just like a really hard slog, and I didn't really understand what was going on. I was so oblivious to perimenopause. Even working with a functional doctor here, we touched on it a little bit, and we'd done some hormone tests and everything seemed okay. And it was all the things that you talk about in your podcasts around, you get all these test results back and there's nothing wrong. And this is like, why do I feel so crappy though? There's something not right here. And I tried kinesiology, I tried acupuncture, all these things I'd used in the past, but nothing was working. And so, you know what? I jumped on Google one day, and by that point, I knew it was hormonal. I just, I tried everything and all the indicators were there. And I don't know, I can't remember the keywords that I Googled, Bria, but you came up, the period whisper. She was there at the top. And I started listening to your podcasts. And that's what led me to you, because everything you were saying in your podcast just made sense. It all clicked. And I was like, yeah.
And what were
that's what's wrong?
Like, I said with you, certainly remember digestive issues. Like, what were the things that you were really into, sleep issues?
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing, the thing that made me start looking for extra help outside of what I was already doing was the sleep. It was, I'm running my own business. I am the main breadwinner in our household. Living in Sydney isn't cheap, right? So I have to be on my game. I have to keep the business going. And I wasn't sleeping. I was maybe sleeping 3-4 hours a night, some nights 0. Some nights I would go to bed and I just couldn't go to sleep. Sometimes I'd wake up after 2 hours. And, I was always a really good sleeper before. Like just never really had any problems with sleep. Yes, I'd had problems with digestion in the past, always have. That's a weak point in my body. But sleep, it just seemed really odd. And then the anxiety started. So I was feeling that, and I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to label that to start with. It was just like this really weird feeling.
Yeah.
And I was feeling all these things. I wasn't myself. I put on 8-9 kilos seemingly overnight. Like it just, and nothing had changed. I wasn't eating more. I wasn't exercising less. So these things were starting to add up, but the sleep was probably the biggest trigger, because if you can't sleep, you can't put anything right, can you?
No, it's so, that was the final kind of straw that broke the camel's back for me too, when I went through this.
Yeah.
If I'd always thought of sleep as like a superpower, but if all of a sudden, if you can't, like, you just can't cope, can't
No.
handle anything in life, and everything seemed
No.
times worse. And
That's right.
that was the real kicker for sure.
Yeah. And, and having that sense of natural therapies, and not wanting to take sleeping tablets, not wanting to, my functional doctor had given me melatonin. He'd given me a relaxing sleep complex to take with that. And, I was trying all those things, and meditation. I was doing lots of breath work and yoga and doing all the things that didn't work. Things that I'd been, I was used to doing in the past, and nothing worked. It was just, oh my goodness, so frustrating.
Yeah, I remember that too about you. It's like you had a lot of the pieces of the puzzle already down. I think you that's one of the most frustrating pieces, isn't it? When it's like, not only if you're like, okay, well, I know I'm drinking too much and I'm like eating all this sugar and like all these things, and you're like, okay, well, I have to play a role here. But if you're putting the effort in and it's not working, it really does your head in, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was like pushing a boulder up a hill, and I was trying the things, but nothing was working. But then I listened to your podcast, and it's like, okay, these are things that I'd taken for granted, that I, was fine with, I could tolerate. All different, all your pillars, I thought were right for me when I think about what I was doing. But actually, you sort of have to. I looking back now, I feel like I had to throw everything out of the window, what I believed was right for my body. And it's different for everyone, right? I've got so many friends going through this, so many girlfriends going through this in the same age group right now. And what works for me might not work for them. But I think some of the foundations that you teach, and you taught me early on when we started working together, were key in a reset. And I think that's what's important, is going through a bit of a reset when you're really feeling these symptoms, because unless you shake up your body and get that reset, you're not going to make a big difference.
Yeah, it's almost like we're on shaky ground. So you have to kind of re-foundation, like really down. Do you remember what those foundations were for you? Like what the ones that you started to root in were?
So are you talking about the foundations like your diet, the exercise, the finding joy? I mean, I think about those things all the time.
Those things. Like what? So can you
specifically within that?
Yes, exactly. Like what foundation, the needle, or what were you like, oh, I guess I was taking this for granted?
Yeah, there are some key things I think that you discussed with me in our first couple of sessions that I was so surprised about. And when I wholeheartedly followed through with everything you told me to do, and didn't, and I didn't question it, because why would you? You just got to go for it, haven't you, and try and see what works. And some of the key things that you talk about on your podcast, to be honest with you, like okay, give yourself a rest from alcohol. Just try it for a month and see how it feels. I wasn't a big drinker, but I would have a couple of glasses of wine on a Friday, maybe a couple on a Saturday night too, and maybe one on Sunday. So all of a sudden I've had 5 glasses of wine over the weekend. And now I realize that wasn't serving me. It just wasn't working, and I needed to take that. That was almost interfering with my body and how it needed to work now. So the alcohol was big.
It's a tough one, because I agree. Like, if I drink, that's usually more how I drink. It's like, oh, just a couple glasses here, a couple glasses there. And you think, oh, it's not a big deal. And in essence, when you're young and your engine's moving well, it's not a big deal, but it's like a real energy cost to your body when your
It
body's like
is.
on the struggle bus already. It's like you're kind of kicking it when it's down.
I like that, the struggle bus. And when you told me it takes you 5 days to work that one alcoholic drink out of your body, and that might be affecting your sleep, Anoushka, I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I didn't realize that. I thought it was 24 hours or, what the media tell you because they want you to carry on drinking.
Want you to carry on drinking. I love that.
It's just so bizarre. So the alcohol was one. I don't think that was the biggest though. And second one was to really look at the diets, and I'd already gone through I'd had a period in my life where I'd done no dairy, no wheat, no gluten, no alcohol. I'd done all of that, and and I've been really strict about that because I had leaky gut syndrome in my 30s and all sorts of different things going on with my gut. So like you say, that was my weak point. But it was those tweaks that you made. So yes, I did cut the gluten back out again, which really I know really helped with the bloating. But not only that, really looking at sugar. And whilst I don't have a particularly sweet tooth, I would say I'm more of a savoury person anyway. It doesn't matter. There's still plenty of sugar in our diets without us really realising it. And, I think coupling the gluten with the sugar and cutting that right down. And then, the biggest thing I found so hard with our conversation, it wasn't the alcohol, it wasn't the sugar, it was my cup of black Earl Grey tea in the afternoon. Being English, I love my afternoon tea. And I was having that extra cup of black tea in the afternoon. And you said to me, no, you've got to get rid of that. Nothing after midday. 2 caffeine drinks a day, that's enough. And I was like, you're kidding me. Can you believe that reaction? I mean, that's it's so strange thinking back now, but that was, it's those light bulb moments, and you think, wow, okay, yeah, I can sort of see how that's having this effect, but probably not helping me sleep at night.
And this is why I think it is so different for everyone, because it's like if it's an energy supply and demand issue, and it is, it's really hard for us to decrease the demand of our life. Like I can't come into your life and change your workload at work or change the stress in your marriage or if you have kids, but we can look at all of our decisions and say, okay, like what's costing me more than it's provided with? And it's little things that really add up, aren't it? It's like, isn't it?
Yeah. All those little nuggets that you threw in every week, it just week on week on week compounded. And it was lightening the load on the body. It was amazing. And I think within the second month, I was starting to sleep better. I'm pretty sure it was within the second month. And we hadn't even looked at supplements or, anything like that. And actually, we hadn't even started on the exercise piece. I was literally so I have introduced the walking in the morning first thing, as you advise. You always say that's really good for hormones. And I used to take the dog for the walk in the afternoon or exercise in the afternoon, and I started that early morning walk. So that was probably the only thing that I introduced, and I stepped back from the cardio exercise. I stopped doing that, and I really got into Pilates a little bit more and just took it a bit more gently. So we did make those tweaks early. I was listening to the podcast and had already been doing that. But so there's little tweaks, but it was the adjustments to the food, and what I'm really thinking about, how you feel after every meal.
Yeah,
when you're eating.
That's what I think. We always start with these kind of foundational pieces, like you're talking about in nutrition, because nutrition is one of our largest energy sources. So if it's off, then we're really up a creek, especially if we're not sleeping, because we can't control our sleep. It's like, you were already suffering with it. And for so many of us, it's an uncontrollable piece. We can control when we try to sleep, but that's it. But we get full control over, what we put in our body. So I know it can be challenging for people, but what you did so well, and I think for anyone listening, I think this is one of the key pieces and really a key to your success, was really pay attention to how your food made you feel.
Yeah.
And I know you'd done so well with your nutrition before, but how was that for you? Tracking it, paying attention, you know,
Yeah, I'd never done that before.
yeah.
And I just, I think in the beginning you think it's really hard. This is hard work, actually. Having you're sort of writing down everything you're eating, and then you have your templates that I was filling in, and different questions about how you felt after. Not just about your energy levels, but it was all sorts of different things like mood and was there bloating? Did you feel satiated? Were you hungry an hour later? It's so much to think about and analyze when you're thinking about your meals and trying to get this stuff right. But after a couple of weeks, it just comes more naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So once you've done it for a couple of weeks, just the only reason I was writing it down was so I could communicate it back to you in the end. Otherwise that's very hard in our catch-ups to, look back and say, okay, well, this day actually I didn't feel that great and this is why. But for me now, and I was just saying before we jumped on here, with the Christmas break and letting go things a little bit, again, I'm going back to thinking about how I feel after my meals because, it's, it could be things that are so simple that are seemingly healthy and everyone tells us to eat, especially in perimenopause, like seeds for me were a problem. I just couldn't digest them.
Yeah.
And you talk so much about seed cycling, and I was just so upset that I couldn't really get into that fully. I can have a bit, but I just can't have what I need to have. And I still can't now. And I know that now, not to push myself, and don't push yourself if it doesn't feel right. And I think that's the biggest thing you taught me. You always say, if I ask you a question about something new, you always say, if it feels good, try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the best piece of advice.
I'm so glad.
And if it doesn't, stop, right? Don't force your body.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, listen to I think so many of us have such cerebral jobs, cerebral lives, and we're really like out of our body and and then we're looking for information from someone else. And then we're just kind of dictating it down to our body. But our body's really love that seeds are supposed to be helpful for your estrogen, but like they make me bloated,
That's right. Not so good for me.
I forgot that we figured that out in, I think in the first month that we did.
Yeah. So quickly.
Made that difference. Was there?
And when you're paying attention, your body tells you really quickly. It can be within 10 minutes of eating something that I get the signal that wasn't good. It's that quick.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
That's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
If you pay attention. And of course, and this is, I think, also where some things like, even when you're in this habit of like maybe drinking every few days or like even just having sugar or gluten occasionally, we're in like this inflammatory place. And then we can't actually get those messages from our body. Like, I think
that's right.
And that's one of the challenges. We have to kind of remove this so we can even hear the real message. And then when you slowly add them back in, you get it loud and clear, don't you?
That's exactly right. That's right. And I know we've talked a lot. So you're absolutely right with the inflammation and, clearing out the toxins and, everything that adds to that inflammation to get back to ground zero again really helps. And that's really important. But it wasn't just the food that was doing that. It was definitely, the mental chatter, the lifestyle pieces. We talked a lot about that as well, just sort of calming everything down. I was so keen to start some new exercise, and you kept saying to me, Anoushka, just wait, we're not there yet. And every week I say, are we there?
Oh, goodness, yeah.
I really want to start doing some weights again. It's been so many years, and I knew that was on the agenda because you really advocate for, more weight orientated exercise and less cardio. And I was so excited for that, but I had to wait. That was so hard.
You got to wait till your body is, I really think of fitness. It's like you have to have a surplus of energy to invest in.
Yeah.
Not walking yoga is something that like we really need to do for functional movement, and you can push yourself no matter what, but unless you're sick. But with fitness, like it costs you energy. So you better have that energy. Otherwise you're spending money you don't have, and that's just causing problems. So
it took me a while to realize that.
And we worked
It
on the
did.
joy. I forgot that you said that. We worked on the joy piece, with you as well,
We
because
did.
you're a huge energy
We
source.
did.
Mhm.
Yeah, I started to do some new things. I really got back into music, and last year was fantastic for that. I saw so many live artists that I love and bands, and we've carried on with that too. Myself and my husband were just really enjoying that, and even just I'd stop listening to it. I'd stop listening to music. I grew up with music. My dad was a musician, and it was a big thing in our house. And over the last sort of previous 5 years, I think I've just gone into this well of just I wasn't happy because of all of this overwhelming kind of hormonal stuff that was going on. I hadn't given myself opportunity to find the joy, and music was a big part of that for me. And I rediscovered that again through. I was already onto that a little bit before you and I started talking, but you pushed me to what really brings you joy, and we talked about that, didn't we? And I realized how much music, like I sing so loudly in the car now.
Yay! I love that.
I love it. And it's so good for you as well.
Yes, stimulates
Isn't
that
it?
nerve. It feels so good. It makes you feel alive again, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it's so good for lowering cortisol and all that scientific stuff behind it. But who cares about that? How good is it just kind of really screaming out one of your favorite songs when no one else can hear you? And
I love to sing in your car. What's your favorite thing?
oh my goodness, there's so many. I'm just so into lots of. At the moment, my favorite artist is. Have you heard of Noah Kahan?
I think I have, but
He's very popular in the States.
yes. Okay, I'll have to go looking around. I'm going to go listen to that.
Brilliant, so good. But all sorts of different things. I like Latino music as well. I love old school rock music because that was, the music I grew up with. There's so much. I'm very diverse in my music taste, and it depends on your mood.
Totally,
But
doesn't it? I love that.
doesn't it? It just lifts you. I feel like it just lifts you. I love it. So thank you so much for helping me rediscover
Oh, you did the
where
work.
I find my joy, because it's hard when someone says to you what brings you joy, and you ask me, really think about that, ponder on that over the next week and write down what brings you joy. Do you know, I think actually that was the hardest exercise you set me. Actually being able to identify what brings me joy now. And so many other women, I think, struggle with that.
So many. I remember the same thing. I remember being like, what do I even like? And all I could come up with was working out and my kids, which obviously
Yeah,
wonderful things, but not really what, we need pure joy that doesn't cost you energy and
yeah,
cost you energy, your pets cost you energy. They do
yeah,
your certainly fitness cost. So it's we need to find something that is purely pouring in that energy to you. And we're more,
absolutely.
it's hard. I
Yeah,
talk to a lot of women about it,
it is
and
hard, isn't it?
yeah, we've just and it's funny because we seem to, when we don't feel well, obviously we want to isolate. We want to kind of go in, crawl in and isolate and hide. But it's kind of the opposite of what we really need. We need to get out and move,
Yeah.
get out and experience more. And
You're absolutely right. It's so funny you talk about that isolation piece because my husband said to me over the Christmas period, because I've been doing those morning walks with my dog in the local neighborhood. I've actually made some really lovely neighborhood friends by doing this. And I think when you go out in the morning, because my morning walks are always before everyone goes to work, so you see far more other dog walkers, plus people just out, putting the bins out, bringing the bins in, whatever it is. Whereas, in the afternoon, not everyone's back from work yet. I was going out sort of 3-4 o'clock and there weren't so many people around. But now, because I've been doing this for nearly a year, I have made so many friends. And I just chat to people. I've gotten to know people. And I was talking to my husband about that. And actually, I met this lovely lady that she's coming over for afternoon tea. Just no caffeine, obviously, herbal. And, and I would never have done that before. Just talking to anyone, just someone random on the street. But it's really feeling well again and getting out there a bit more. And not in a work perspective, because I'm obviously always out and about from a work perspective, but just, taking my time, having a nice walk and talking to people. It's been the most amazing experience for getting to know local neighbours and, just sharing a little bit more with those people. It's just been fantastic. I mean, yeah, those interactions are so important, and I forget about, I think people forget about that, those interactions at the local coffee shop, those conversations, that's all community. And we're so isolated. And I think since COVID too, we've been so isolated in our homes or in our mindset, and then also going into perimenopause.
Yeah.
It's like a double whammy.
Yeah,
Anyone going
like
through
yourself.
that?
Yeah.
No. So you don't want to make those connections.
Yeah.
So that's been awesome. So awesome. So who knew?
Right? We didn't expect those results, and then here they are. It's
Dog walking. Yeah.
That's how I swear I meet so many people the same way, because most people have a routine. So people who walk their dog, the dog's so you run into the same people at the same time. And it's like, it's the only way I meet my neighbors, I swear. It's
that's
like
right.
out with the dog, and it's nice. Like, it's just nice.
It's absolutely right.
That's
absolutely right. And none of them know my name, Bria. They all call me, because my dog's called Lottie.
Oh,
they all call me Lottie's mum. Yeah.
Every dog owner knows this. Yeah. You're like,
yeah. Everyone will understand.
Yeah. I love that. So, okay. So we worked together for, I think it was 3, 4, 5 months around there.
We did 6 months in the end, didn't we? 6 months. 6 months. It was 6 months in the end, because we stretched out our last couple of sessions, and then we added a couple more on because I wanted to do some extra testing at the end, didn't I?
Yes. Yeah. So we added some things on, but so I know, and we worked through all of these pieces. We worked through nutrition, sleep, joy,
Yeah.
Finally got to the fitness, like you said.
Got to the fitness, yeah.
Got to the fitness. So when you started, you like sleep, like kind of unexplained weight gain and bloating were kind of the big 3 main.
Yeah.
And how were those when we stopped working together, and even now?
Yeah. So, I'd already seen through the time working with you, the sleep was correcting itself. So that was great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's continued. I've just had the best 6 months of sleep, just getting it back on track, and I feel well rested. I'll obviously have a couple of, especially that week leading up to my period, I'll have a few bad nights sleep, and now I know that that's coming.
Yeah,
you don't beat yourself up about that, right? So learning about our cycle with you was really important. I didn't even realize those phases were there, really, that they had names for them, and, and just how to identify them. So really tracking that phase has helped me just relax a bit more about the sleep, but my sleep is so much better now. So that was fantastic. And the weight gain. So yes, you got me started on weight training. And so I love weight training now. I'm weight training 3 times a week. I see results most of the time. When I'm plateauing, I ease off a little bit, just listen to my body. And, if I'm struggling to lift a regular weight, I'll just take it easy. My body's obviously not in the right spot to gain. It just wants to maintain. So I don't beat myself up about that. But then other times, I'm seeing real gains, and I'm loving that. And I think that, coupled with the Pilates that I was already doing, it's just a really great combination to maintain mobility, flexibility, strength. I'm thinking about going into my 50s now, so that was fantastic. And then I started to see the weight come off right at the end of our time working together. I think it took some time for me. It was stubborn.
It's not just you; it's everyone. I'm always like,
I think 6 months, right? It's like 6 months.
It's common.
Yeah, it's common, isn't it? It is. And then you were great at keeping in touch with me after we finished the one-on-one program. And I think I was saying to you regularly, I've lost more. More's coming off. It's coming off. It's slow, but it's coming off. And I think I said to you probably around October time, and I'm just about to go on holiday and get into that bikini. Yeah. And I hit my pre-wedding weight.
That's crazy.
It was nearly 20 years ago now. So I was pretty happy with that. And that wasn't the main reason I came to you. Weight loss wasn't the biggest thing for me. It was the bloating, it was the sleep, it was all those other things, the mental kind of anxiety. But it was just so lovely. That kind of weight shed, it just felt like my body was sort of saying, okay, yeah, we're back to normal now. I feel good. I can let that go, and I feel so much better. And with that, then the bloating subsides. And when you're losing weight, you're not bloated because the digestion's working.
Yeah, it's like a key part. Yeah, I
Yeah.
always love, I think about you and how you would be like, "Oh, now I'm losing the weight." And I say to a lot of my new clients, like, it's probably gonna be after that it's gonna
Yeah,
happen. So,
it
but
is.
like this, we're doing like the underlying work, like in a
Yes,
renovation, like we're doing the not sexy work right now.
that's right.
But it's
That's
gonna
right.
make a difference. It's gonna make
And
a difference.
I think it is cyclical. It's these 6 month chunks
Yeah.
that you need to think about with this kind of cycle of our lives. If you really want to make change and impact change, you have to be patient. And I really saw the results at 6 months.
Yeah.
And now I'm coming up to 12 months next month.
Yes.
You,
Next
you
one.
you know, and the solidification now of
Yeah.
all that work, and just being able to relax a bit more, and focus on that joy, and
Yeah.
not be quite so serious, yeah, about it. Not like I'm drinking every weekend again, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't mean that way. I mean just not having to focus on it so much. The laser focus isn't there anymore. It's just more natural, and you just relax into it.
Yeah. Well, and some of the reasons we drink every weekend is because we're uncomfortable and we're trying to numb the discomfort that we're in. We're like
Mm.
looking for the comfort. So when all of a sudden you don't have that discomfort, it's
Yeah,
like you're just not as interested, right? You're more excited about having a really good night's sleep or getting that workout in or like getting up,
yeah,
doing a new adventure or
so
having
true.
so
Yeah.
it's,
That's so true, actually. Sometimes, like I would say, I drank every Saturday night. Saturday night was a big thing in the UK when I was young, and even here, going out for a nice meal when I was, getting into my mid to late 30s, and slowing down a bit on the big nights out. Saturday night was always a drink.
wine
But
night.
sometimes Saturday night breezes by now, and I don't even think about it.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah, I know.
really changed the mindset.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
And I think like there can be still a lot of joy in like popping some champagne with friends or having like a beautiful glass of
absolutely.
wine. But I always think when it comes to those things, like they should be not the joy. Like they should be the icing on top of the joy. They should be
Yeah.
like a joyful experience on
Yeah.
top of that joyful experience. So
Yes, that's right. That's right. And I think the biggest thing for me, Bria, a testament to your program, was when I went to see my functional doctor at the end of our time together, and got all of. I was ready for, it was my yearly regular test, the full screen. He tests everything once a year. And I went to see him to get my test results and to talk about anything we needed to tweak, because I'm still working with him, right? He's still keeping an eye on the thyroid,
yeah.
um, and things like that. So, and the first thing he said to me was, "What have you been doing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, all your inflammation markers are down. Not that they were super high before, but they're all really low. Your iron's gone up naturally, which I've never been able to do before. I was always very low on iron." And he's just like, "What have you been doing?" And I talked him through, and he's like, "That'll do it." And it's just like,
That's,
yeah, that will always stay with me.
that's so validating. I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Well, I'm so glad you're feeling so amazing. I can like see it in your
yeah,
face, in the whites of your eyes, like in your smile and in your
yeah,
voice. And, but you really did put that work in. Like it was like you committed and you went all in, and
yeah.
that's why you
And it was fun.
and it was so fun.
It was fun,
We had
right?
time. Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I enjoyed every one of our calls. So
Me
I'm so
too.
grateful for you and thank you for being here today. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
you feel like women listening should know about going through this phase of life, about trying to feel better?
Yes, I think, and probably if they're listening to you, they are a person with routine, and probably a high performer in whatever they want to be a high performer in. And I think I think the fact they're listening to you and your podcast will mean that they're looking for answers.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing is to just say, throw everything out of the window that you already knew, and come with an open mind. Honestly, honestly, you need to turn yourself on your head, and start with a new way of living. It really is. It really is. Everything that I thought I already knew just wasn't right for this time of my life. And I think it's just learning again and being open to learning. Yeah.
That's great advice. And also feels so crazy to say, but it's everything I've learned too. It's like I was a
Yeah.
fitness trainer and nutrition coach for years and years and had to be like, this is not working. Like it is.
That's right. That's right. And you can tear yourself apart trying to work out why it's not working. But what's more important is just to stop and find what will work for you. And I think, seeking out someone like yourself, taking advice from people that understand perimenopause and menopause, because we're so undereducated.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And I just think you need help. You need help from people like yourself. Because otherwise you're just going to take supplements randomly and probably start HRT when you don't really need to.
Yeah, it's true. It's starting things before you're ready, which can just muck things up actually worse. If we don't know what we need them, it's that guessing instead of testing. So
yeah, that's right. It's worth it. It's so worth it. So thank you so much. You've changed my life. I tell you so often, you've changed my life. And I know we'll continue working together.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here all the way from Australia. I really appreciate you, Anoushka. Thank you.
Delighted. Thanks, Bria.
All right, sisters, you have now heard some beautiful inspiration and some real tips from someone who went through it. So go out, be more in your life and not just less on a scale. And we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me on the Period Whisperer podcast. If you liked this episode, take 30 seconds right now to write a review on iTunes and then reach out to me directly on Instagram at Bria_period_whisperer and message me there with a screenshot of your review. As a thank you, I will give you a customized free hormone audit to get you on your way to the best health of your life in midlife.